Hi, I'm Kate. I'm here at Shine Yoga in Cincinnati. I've made it back for week 3, feeling pretty excited about that. Started on January 1st of 2024, and I'm hoping to do a weekly video. I'm counting on a few missed weeks, and this was almost one, but I made it in. My original intention for sharing these videos is that I'm a yoga teacher, and I do incorporate a lot of yoga philosophy in my everyday weekly classes. I'm also a functional movement specialist, and so that kind of is my signature, that we're working on healthy, everyday functional movement, and then also these more traditional core principles of yoga that I will go into slowly over time here, not to give it all away at once, because that would be 200-hour video, right? Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about the big picture of my point of view from yoga philosophy, but what I will say is that in my mind, the yoga philosophy is one that is diverse. There's a lot of different lineages and traditions. And from my point of view, the idea of yoga is to be open to the whole big picture of life, to really come to a place where we can be aware and in some capacities, at least for a little bit of time, non-critical, non-judgmental, because that just kind of allows you to see the truth and the big spectrum, that this is at play and this is at play and that's at play. And a lot of times if we decide this is good and that's bad, there's a lot of gray and color and context that we can miss. So in my point of view, we're looking to kind of have a clear picture of the big picture of life, and then to work to cultivate as the greatest level of harmony that we can in our own lives, in our personal relationships, in our interactions, and the work that we do, and then to some degree to the world at large, the universe at large. Just understanding that happens, small steps at a time. In general, of course, there are some amazing, great change makers, and we can all aspire to do that and be that. But I think a lot of times just the small work is really important. Okay, so that felt like a little bit of a tangent, and just the tip of an iceberg there. But I think that's important for you to have a sense of where I'm coming from. All right, so this past week I had a fairly light class, a light week of teaching, and my theming was a little bit light for that reason. And I'm going to delve into it a lot deeper next week. So next week will kind of be a continuation. What I did talk about is, this idea of mindfulness, which is very popular and important work in yoga and other modalities. But I also brought up the idea of mindlessness. And if we go back to what I talked about of kind of being open to the big picture, that we're not really focusing in on any one particular thing and not making judgments about that thing, then our kind of field of perception can really open up deeper. And I think that's a really important way to use our brains, at least some of the time in our lives. So you probably have experienced times of mindlessness. Maybe you think of like daydreaming. I used to be a runner. I can't run because of my hip, knee, and back anymore. But that was a place where I really, my mind just kind of went. It's open and fluid. If you've done anything that feels like the flow state, I think that can be a certain level of mindlessness, meaning that you aren't super consciously aware of where your attention is, and because of that, kind of inspiration and insight can pop in. We've got the great shower analogy that sometimes when you take a shower and you're not really thinking about things, solutions arise or memories come up, that kind of thing. So I'm gonna do a couple breath techniques today with you. That's my point for the video today. And in that, you might also play with your mental focus. And just notice when you are consciously engaged, consciously focused, and then can you create these little pockets or moments when the mind kind of just opens up a little bit more? In meditation circles, sometimes you might hear this idea of the mind enters the gap, and the gap is the place between thoughts. The mind really is able to kind of, quieting the mind is a tricky concept. I tend to think of it as like just being less actively engaged or stuck in any mind loops. A lot of times we get in a mind loop, we're worried about something and we can't stop worrying about it. So the point is to stop the mind, to create a little quiet pocket and let that pocket stretch out a little bit. So that's the intention for today. So I'm going to take you through a little guided practice. If you are comfortable to close your eyes, I would suggest that. And if you have to move yourself to a place where you feel safer or more comfortable to have your eyes closed, I think that's a good idea. You can sit any way that you're comfortable. You could stand up. I'm just sitting in a chair today, and I've got some pillows so that I am as comfortable as I can be. I have a little hip back thing going on, and so if I didn't have that, I do like sitting on the floor. There's kind of something about being a little more cuddled in and grounded, so that can be nice. If you're a yoga practitioner, certainly sit on the floor. So the 2 breath techniques that we're going to do today is, one, just simply breath awareness, and while we're doing that, to pay attention to where mind is focused, and then we can ask the question, like, why is it focused there? Did you choose that focus? Did something catch your attention and draw you into focus there? Maybe there's another reason that your mind settled on what it settled on. And then we can always ask the question, why? So, then maybe I already said that, but you're assessing, why did my mind get focused on that? And then the invitation to just try and soften the grip of the mind. So, I a lot of times have an analogy that I use for meditation, and it's if you had like a thing of Tic Tacs and poured it on a table and they'd all spread out, and then there's a moment in time where if you wanted to put them in a little pile, you'd have to focus and push them all in and kind of work to get them to find their way to be in a little mound. And then you could take your hands, if you got it all arranged properly, you could take your hands away and maybe they would be suspended and you weren't being effortful. So sometimes you have to focus the mind. So that's the interactive part of the mind and brain where you're focusing on one thing. And then maybe the brain finds a state of focus that doesn't need it to be so supported. And then you can just kind of take the effort off of the mind support. And so then, so my hands, we're focusing and then we're releasing focus and maybe being in that space of what I would call mindlessness for this analogy. All right, you ready? Okay, so come to a comfortable seat and close your eyes. And then just allow yourself a moment to pay attention to what is most prevalent in your mind. If you think about where your mind focus went, where did it go? Why is it there? Did you consciously choose it? Is it a habit, a pattern? Is there something that drew your attention? Oh, the other important question I think is it helpful? What are we focused on? Why are we focused on? Is it helpful? And then whether it's helpful or not, can we soften the grip of the brain? One way that we might practice this is that once you've paid attention to what's in your brain, see if you can start to pay a little more attention to what's happening around you without opening your eyes. So using your sense of hearing or potentially sense of smell or your sense of touch, which isn't necessarily skin sensation, but the fact that maybe you can feel vibration. And particularly if you're working with hearing, Notice what you hear close. Maybe you can imagine a small circle around your body so you're aware of all the directions. And then imagine stretching your hearing as far as you can, again, in that concentric, expanding sense, hearing in all directions. And maybe you have a sense of your mind energy expanding with your hearing. So this concept of the mind opening and not being particularly focused on one thing, but as much as possible aware of the big field around you. And then bring your focus back to a singular point and let it be our breath now. Breathing in and breathing out. So you're paying attention to those two primary phases of inhalation and exhalation. And if you pay attention to your breathing, what particularly are you paying attention to? Maybe it's sensation in your nostrils, or throat, or lungs, or something else. And then just like we did with hearing, see if you can expand your capacity for awareness in the breath process. So in my mind, that means as you breathe in, see if you can have a sense of your whole body breathing. Everything expands a little bit on your inhale, and everything contracts back into the center on your exhale. And because you are focusing on a bigger picture, not one minute detail, your mind's just kind of a little more open to things catching your attention. And then as we move through the practice, just to notice when your focus and attention narrows in on something, we can take that moment of contemplation. Why has that happened? Is it helpful? And then for the sake of today's practice, can we dissolve that attachment? Can we be a little more open-minded, open to the big field? Again, where maybe little insights pop in. And it's just gonna be a process. Something might catch your attention, and then you see if you can release your attention. So this just paying attention to the breath and being conscious of how our brain is working based on focus and unfocused awareness. We're going to start to work towards what I'm going to call box breathing. There's a lot of things in yoga and mindfulness and etc. where names get crossed over and might mean different things. So let's not get caught up of whether something is rightly named or not. And in my mind, this is our box breathing. So we noticed our first two major phases, inhalation, exhalation. Now start to pay attention to what we consider either the pauses or the transitions between the inhale, exhale phases. So whatever it is for you is fine. If there's not a distinct pause right now, totally fine. Let yourself go as full into each inhalation and exhalation phase that you can. And notice either the pause or transition between the two phases. Now count the length of your inhale and your exhale, and just let it be whatever it actually naturally is right now, which can change frequently. So just noticing what it is now, inhale, exhale phases. If you can, comfortably start to bring them into balance. So you can do that in any way that feels right for you. You might be lengthening one phase, or you might be shortening one phase. And it's possible when you start to change your breath rhythm that your body does feel a little anxious or nervous because it relies on a steady breath rhythm. And if you don't change it frequently, it might feel a little uncomfortable. So be gentle and be slow in any breath work practices that you do. And let your comfort be your guide. Now, as long as it doesn't cause any extreme discomfort, see if you can start to hold your breath a tiny little bit after each inhalation and after each exhalation. And so we can come back to that idea of creating a little bit of a gap, a little bit of an open space, a time where we defocus, that we're not so intensely focused or attached to a thought. And then for box breathing, you begin to bring equal length to all 4 phases. So you're going to have your exhalation. You're going to have the pause at the end of the exhalation. Then your inhalation. Then the pause at the end of the inhalation. And it continues. Pay attention to how you feel as you're working this breath technique. If it feels, a little unsettling, that may be the case. That may be part of you shifting your breath rhythm. If it makes you feel really anxious or you don't feel good, don't force yourself. Don't rush the process. A lot of times people will start to feel a little calmer and a little sleepier. And that's because we're shifting from a sympathetic nervous system response where we have a little bit of residual stress energy or stress chemicals. And then when we calm the nervous system, those chemicals slow down or stop in their production, and our body can metabolize them. And we do feel calmer and more peaceful. After you've done a few rounds where you've gotten your phases as even as you're comfortable to get them today, let yourself return to a more relaxed breath rhythm. Notice what that feels like now and how it might feel different from when we first began. Maybe your inhalations are a little longer. Maybe there is a little longer pause in the transitions between inhale and exhale. Those tend to be associated with us being in more of a parasympathetic nervous system response. And that's the place where we digest all the energy that we're taking in, not just our food, but our thoughts and emotions too. It's a place where our bodies heal. We get to have active rejuvenation when we get into this parasympathetic nervous system response. Just keep breathing a couple more rounds in a relaxed way. I'm going to give us about a minute here just to breathe, relax, and you are in meditation now. So if you don't feel like you know meditation, you have just entered into a meditation moment. As you continue breathing in a comfortable and gentle way, just notice what your mind is settled on. Why is it there? Why is it there like that? Is it helpful? Can you, for a moment of a fraction of a second, let it go? And then before we finish our time together, is there something you would like to choose to focus on today or in this moment? As you feel ready, let your eyes gently open if they're still closed. We're going to do a couple little cleansing breaths together. So just breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. You can do that slow or fast. Really has two different sensations. All right, we're going to finish up here today. If you're interested to know more about me, you can find my classes at shineyoga.com. And then about me personally, you can go to my own website. There's another Kate Noble out there. She's a romance author, and she's got katenoble.com. Mine is p.o.v, K-O-B-E, noble.com, N-O-B-L-E. Those are my initials. And I've got some information up there. I do teach in person, several classes, lots of different levels each week, and I have a couple that are online that you can tune into from wherever you are. So that's it for today. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope it made you feel a little calm and peaceful, and you can carry that with you. All right, bye.